Welcome to another episode of Talks with Tech Leaders. Today I'm in a new studio in Leeds, so I usually record an episode in Middlesbrough, but today I've made the trip down and I'm delighted to be joined by Elliot. So Elliot, thanks for joining me today. Would you mind just giving a bit of an intro to
Sure.
yourself?
Yeah, pleasure to be here as well. Appreciate the invitation. So yeah, I'm Elliot Morris. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Mozstro. I'm also the CEO and co-founder at Drovi, which is an AI networking platform. And Mozstro is an AI consultancy where we work with regulated industries, particularly around insurance and kind of legal and fintech as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think we've been connected on LinkedIn for a few years. I noticed you'd worked for some large companies like BJSS and Accenture as well. And you're quite young as well, right? I mean, would you mind sharing how old you are?
Yeah, 25, 26 in
25.
2 weeks though
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Yeah. Well, still only 25. It's quite young. Yeah. Like, how did we get here? You've obviously, like you mentioned, you're founder of a couple of businesses and at quite a young age. Yeah. Like, should we go with like how did it start? How did we get here?
Yeah. So I've always been into computers. I got really into video games, like PC gaming. To be honest, it's like my passion for quite a while. And I really wanted to make a game. So I did game design at college and I absolutely hated it because I'm just not academic and I just wasn't enjoying the teachers and the kind of environment. And actually what we were learning, I felt like it was not really going to actually help me build an actual game or build something that I wanted to see. I really wanted to see like something come to life. And then I kind of was exploring more in that and kind of dropped out of college and got into like a more technical role working in like application support off the back of working with like C Sharp and kind of C++ a little bit with like Unity. So I got familiar with like the .NET stack. So I got into like a company where I was doing kind of PowerShell support in like Microsoft environment. And then as I kind of got more into it, I got closer with the development team and just really started like becoming swamped around the idea of being like a web app developer instead rather than the gaming side. I love seeing kind of a product come to life as well. It gave me that sign of, like that same buzz really.
Yeah.
So kind of yeah, just literally watching videos online and reading books and speaking to other people that was in that environment really kind of pushed me forward and kind of wanted me to get into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there, kind of just really just spent a lot of time researching, building little stuff out, failing a lot, getting frustrated quite a lot, but then eventually actually landed a proper junior role as a developer.
Yeah. Let's go back. When did you first get an interest in um, computers and like the thought of developing a game? Was it from a very young age?
Yeah, I'd probably say around 10, 11, to be honest. Like, I used to play PS1 with my mum and dad when I was quite young. And as time got on, I really was obsessed with games to the point where it was literally my main hobby. And then from there, I was like, I'm quite creative as well. I used to like to draw stuff and like quite interested in clothes and fashion and anything quite visual. So I was like, would really love to make something quite creative. But I do feel like as I really looked into the industry, it put me off with like, I've heard notoriously like long hours and low pay in comparison to other kind of engineering kind of roles. So that was one of the other things ultimately that kind of pushed me away from it.
Yeah, because I think there is a little stigma with gaming, especially in the industry, about it being like long hours and working. Well, yeah, because it's working you to the bone. So from there, then you decided to go to college to learn games design. Obviously, you mentioned that it wasn't for you. Obviously, my background's mostly recruiting in C Sharp .NET. I've been doing that for like 9 years, so it's really interesting that that's like one of the first languages you learn. I guess C Sharp along with Unity. So talk to me a little bit about how you started learning. I appreciate you touched on it a little bit about like online. Like what were the platforms that you used to help you develop your software skills?
Yeah, so I feel like going to understand like how to really solve a problem was key for me. And there was a website I used to use religiously called Code Karma, where you'd have to like solve progressively harder challenges. And I remember competing with guys that I like a couple of my friends was into software as well. We'd compete with each other for the score,
Yeah,
and it was a game again,
yeah, yeah,
gamifying the whole thing, and like that just got me obsessed with it. And I always want to beat everybody. And
yeah,
I feel like ultimately it was actually making me really good at C sharp as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I
That's
think
interesting because I
yeah,
think
that helped me a lot.
alongside like your friends and like gamifying stuff, it's and then obviously you've coming from like you've grew up playing games, so I
Yeah.
think that part of it probably resonated with you quite well.
100%,
Yeah,
yeah. And I think as well, like at the time, I found a really good like YouTube series. I forgot the guy's name off the top of my head now, but he was at the time quite core for me. I watched a whole like course with him. Again, the way he explained was very good at the time. I just remember resonating with that quite highly and actually it clicking a lot more.
yeah. How many hours a day were you sort of dedicating to maybe learning like coding, like and yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to say. I would probably say, to be honest, it would literally be a lot of my free time because most of the time I'd feel I was working in the role. I'd come home and come onto my laptop or computer and I'd just be
yeah,
sat either working on, like playing on games, working on a game still idea. I was still playing around with stuff in uni at that time as well.
Yeah.
So I still wasn't fully sure. I just
Yeah.
knew I wanted to get into industry.
Yeah. So did you complete your studies at university?
I didn't go to university, so
Sorry,
it was
college.
yeah. I
Sorry,
dropped
yeah.
out of college. So I did
Yeah.
1 year there, and I ended up doing an apprenticeship through the application support role. And then I did 1 year of that, and then left and got an actual role. I kind of wanted to get away from education quite quickly because I felt like this job's very hands-on, and I'm not really going to learn from a qualification. I want to build the thing.
Yeah. So I think, there's a couple of routes people go down, which is, the traditional route where they may do like a computer science degree. And then there's, and obviously there's like in recent years, a lot of boot camps, so you can join a boot camp and things like that. And then I know there's obviously a lot of people that are self-taught, or, I've placed somebody who was like a plasterer and he got into software development because he was just really interested in it and he's doing really well. So yeah, it's great that it's like an industry where there's different avenues, and I think the opportunities are out there as well.
Yeah.
So you landed the support role. Talk to me a little about how you obviously developed from then being in a support role to becoming a developer. Was it curiosity? Was it being around like good like mentors and other developers? What sort of helped you develop then to the next stage in your career?
Yeah, so a lot of the support was around kind of more second and third lines. So it got a little bit technical, as in like SQL and PowerShell was my kind of what I was working with. So it kind of got me understanding coding, scripting, things like this as well, and getting into that mindset of the problem solving really in a technical way. And then, yeah, like I said, I worked very closely with the development team there, which was quite useful to me. And it was nice as well that they kind of let me kind of shadow them almost when I wasn't even in that department. It was just literally from speaking to them, really, just trying to become friendly. And from there, yeah, I kind of got more comfortable, and it was backing up the stuff I was learning externally to the point where my CV became good enough and came across well enough to actually land a role in that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. So then you went into a development role.
Yeah.
You went down the consultancy route, right, with a couple of companies, like some large consultancies like BJSS and Accenture. So I think they're probably some of the like most well recognized, especially like locally, but also like across the world as well. How did you find that? 'Cause I appreciate going into those companies. It must be quite difficult in terms of the applications and being up against people that might have gone down the university route or the traditional route, so they've maybe got the qualifications to back what they do. How did you find that interview process and everything like that?
Yeah, it was quite funny because BGSS was a target of mine, and it was a goal to get to work to that company because I knew that they was like the benchmark for being a good consultant and kind of how to develop as a developer really well. So I spent a lot of time researching the company, and the way I actually got in was through messaging one of the people that worked there that was quite senior in kind of platform and architecture.
Right.
And it was a very difficult interview, I'm not going to lie, but it was a really interesting process, and it kind of put me to my paces, but I feel like I shined through that. I was kind of ready. I got to the point where I feel like it all aligned perfectly. I was working at an IoT startup previously, and then that's when I became, I think, super really good at like .NET because I was doing quite technical things, working with machine vision there as well, and like a lot of high volume data and doing a lot of kind of data analysis, more technical bits where it was getting a bit more interesting to kind of problem solve in different ways. That really kind of got me geared up to go for BGSS. So at the time, I personally felt quite confident, and it kind of worked out. I got into the company, so I was super happy, thankful for that as well.
Yeah. And then did they have you on projects from the off? Was there a bit of a learning time? How was it like your early time there?
It was funny. The first day I was on project for NHS,
Right.
so that was really fun.
Threw you in the deep end.
Literally, and it was probably the project that really changed my career, if I'm being completely honest, because I was on a position where I was leading 2 developers, which were quite junior, which was great for me to get the more mentorship kind of role. And that project, we actually worked super close with AWS. And in the end of it, I actually got an article written on their blog about what I'd done because we'd worked with Nitro Enclaves, which at the time was a brand new service. No one had used it. And then they had a case study for the NHS using that product, and I kind of facilitated writing all of this. And honestly, it was really good. I learned so much around like super intelligent people, and to be honest, like I say, pinnacle moment I think for me as a consultant, and kind of a difficult problem to solve that I helped, which was really good.
So certainly you think that obviously helped in progressing your journey. Would you, because when I speak to developers, obviously I'm going from like the recruitment side here, you get some that just do not want to work for a consultancy. They think that's going to be long hours. They'll be working on projects where they're like, contracted out somewhere. They're going to be moved then to another company after 3-6 months, and they're not really able to build like relationship and stuff. I guess, from your point of view, I guess there's obviously positives and drawbacks, but was it mostly positive for you in your experience?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't have anything to complain about with it. I had a really good time, and I feel like that's how I enjoy to work as well. And the kind of essence of where I'm at now with the consultancy we've created, it's always something I wanted to do is kind of help solve really difficult problems with technology.
Yeah. Okay. And then from there, you moved on to Accenture. And was it similar where, how did you find like the transition? Was it in like a similar role? Was it a role with like more responsibility? How, yeah, just explain like maybe the change of company there.
So I actually went through Infinity Works for that one, and it was at a time where they actually got merged. So technically, it was Accenture, I
Right.
guess. But
Yeah.
it was an interesting time, to be honest. And again, I was a more senior role to an extent. I had a team of 5 developers. I was technical lead, tech arc, focused on kind of platform, AWS again, and at the time we were using Python actually. We kind of created a proof of concept for an energy consultancy, and that was super cool. But after that, I actually then went on to go independent contracting pretty shortly after, because I got an opportunity I couldn't turn down at the time.
Right.
So I didn't stay around too long at Accenture, which I would have probably been interested in because it's a good company to be kind of influenced by. But the opportunity I got was just too good to kind of not take.
Yeah, sorry, I think I've seen on your LinkedIn, but I was familiar with Infinity Works actually, because we did some work and we actually went into pitch to Infinity Works as well. It was, looking back, it was probably one of the most difficult pitches we did.
Yeah,
I mean, my
difficult.
business partner at the time, we always laugh about it because it was like Victoria, she grilled us really hard at the time. So from there then, so you went down the contract route. I guess obviously from obviously listening to you here, you've talked about .NET, you've talked about Unity, you've talked about Python, you've talked about AWS. So you've obviously learned a lot of languages and a lot of technologies in that time. How did you find that? And again, did you have to do a lot of self-learning and development to be able to do that, or did they give you a lot of self-development time to build that as well?
BGSS was very good at helping with certifications, to be honest, and even just getting stuck in. We actually built a VPN, like a kind of micro VPN. It was basically a tunnel through that Nitro enclave to a parent EC2 instance where you could then send data between. We didn't have a way to do it, so we built our own using Go, and I'd never used Go in my life. And it was, but I worked with a couple of people that did, and I had other teams, because there's such a big organisation. I had people I could ask questions for as well, which I think is super key. You don't get that in a lot of small firms as well. They had Go engineers on hand to kind of listen to my problems and help me. Obviously, we've got AI now to help with that as well, but back then that was super good, and they really pushed for everyone to do the AWS certifications. They'd pay for it. I think that's a really good incentive to have, because not only you got a good certification against you, you actually learn quite a lot from them as well. The material's pretty decent, and it covers everything they've released and new things come in. So yeah, I think that's a good way, like working in an environment like that where they want to put money into invest in the team. It makes sense. Like,
Yeah, so I think actually the developers get better, and then the projects get done better, and obviously for the developers it's great as well, because then like you said, you've got the certifications, and just makes you look more qualified, I guess, as well. Why did you decide to go contracting then? What sort of prompted you to do that?
so the ultimate goal I always wanted to do was have my own business. So I knew the steps for me was get good at a skill, become a consultant in that skill to kind of sell it to other people, and then become independently consulting to then actually grow a consultancy. That was my flow in my head.
Yeah.
So that was the next step for me. And when the opportunity came, I was like, right, this is the next step now. I'm ready for it. So that was kind of the main reason. It was always part of the idea.
Yeah. Did you ever work for any smaller companies? Because I had this chat with another guest of mine who worked. He progressed quite quickly as well to becoming a CTO, but he started his career at maybe a little bit of a smaller company, so he really got to know about all the nuts and bolts of like what it's like working for a smaller company, and that we're getting a bit more exposure to things like, you know, accounting and sales and obviously finance, everything that comes, marketing that comes with being as part of a small business, because you get much more visibility of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you worked for BGSS and Infinity Works, which were quite, you know, large organisations. I guess you must have always had this obviously burning desire to own your own business, but do you feel like you maybe got enough of that, or was that one of the reasons why you maybe wanted to go contractor, to maybe then understand the things that you probably weren't able to see when you were at those companies?
That's a great point. So obviously I had to deal with my own tax and everything, set up an entity, and it's the entity we've grown today now. It was an extension of my contracting that we've been growing together. But yeah, I think, to be honest, yeah, it's a good point. That did massively help, but also previous contract role I did was the interim CTO stuff, where I actually got a lot of access to that in a firm more established than Mozstro is right now, which is great to kind of see, you know, 2-3 years down the line, what the accounts will look like, what is
Yeah.
business development going to be like? So that was a good insight to see as well.
Yeah. So when you started contracting, were you able to land a contract role pretty much straight away?
So yeah, so it came to me. I was still at Accenture, and then
Right.
I was speaking to a friend of mine. His uncle owns a recruitment firm, and it literally conversations happened, and then within a couple of weeks, I got the offer for the role, and I was like, it was actually a random thing, to be honest. So it wasn't even something I was actively chasing at the time.
Yeah. And what was that in a specific technology, a particular
Yeah,
market?
yeah. So can talk about the project to be fair.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
around the NHS again. It was Apply for Care ID, where we digitized. It was for COVID basically. We digitized the entire process. If you join the NHS, how you'd get verified. So before you'd have to travel to get actually meet in person, effectively show documents. Now we built a system where you can upload your passport. You just fraud prevention against using APIs and an actual chip reading from the passport NFC device, and then also doing a check against driving license and then utility report as well. So it kind of does like a full Experian credit check effectively. And then it gives you an ID to a level that you can actually use that to authenticate against any system in the NHS. So that was kind of the essence of what we did. It was a super interesting project, and I worked on that for over a year as well as a contractor, like technical lead. So it was,
Yeah.
I learned quite a lot off that, to be honest, just kind of steady leading a big project in a big organisation, kind of properly consulting on it.
Yeah. And during this time, did you have like one eye on the new businesses that you wanted to set up? Obviously, the consultancy as well. Did you put things into play for that, or did that sort of come at a time when maybe the contract came to an end?
Yes, I will say I wanted to try and grow the company at that point, but I think personally I was too inexperienced to take it that far. I played around with a few things, but I was also still kind of probably overwhelmed personally of like being a contractor and being in the position I was in and making sure I don't mess that up
Of course, yeah.
before I really wanted to focus on any other thing. But it was in my mind, was like, oh, can I try and bring some other bits on? And to be honest, I did, but like tiny pieces where I'm helping friends and family and building little things for them, websites, etc. But
Yeah. And then when did it start in terms of you then going out and finding your own contracts and obviously marketing your services to businesses?
yeah, so after I left the NHS contract, I was working with the wealth management firm, and it kind of all started there where I got that role through speaking to people on LinkedIn. And I was getting more savvy with growing my LinkedIn as well and trying to, especially nowadays, even more so, I'm posting really consistently now and I'm seeing that's getting a lot of attention back to my profile, potentially bringing leads in. So at that point, I think it became more clear of like, this is a way to, I should harness LinkedIn a little bit more. And I was trying to speak to more people. And then I picked up a few advisory roles, like not too long ago from now, even, which were just all through networking again. So I really took a lot of value in making sure I build my network up in this period as like, I kind of wanted to be where I am right now with growing it. So I kind of did all the groundwork, building my network, becoming more visible with people and doing opportunities like this as well, getting more into that.
Yeah. So when you were doing advisory, what do you mean by that? What were those roles that came through?
Yeah, so a contact at one of the firms when I did the NHS stuff previously, his brother-in-law had an AI company. They had like an idea basically, and he didn't have no technical background apart from academia, which is very difficult from working in traditional. So I consulted across all the kind of platform stack, even down to AI as well, because at that point I'd have been working with a wealth management firm. I'd built an entire wealth concierge at this point, so I had a good idea of how to implement AI. And I helped them for quite a while, to be fair. But to be honest, I know this is a good lesson I learned around having a startup is there wasn't hyper focused enough. They were trying to build a product that was too just vague, and you need to start somewhere. And I was trying to help with that, but I was consulting more on building the thing, like rather than the idea.
Yeah.
And it kind of just didn't go anywhere after about 6 months. But it was a good lesson to see of like, right, AI is good, but you really need to pick a niche and like dial in on something.
Yeah. But I think it's good, like you're always going to learn lessons and not every project that you work on is going to work. I think it's like that in any line of business and work really, that you have to take risks or you have to try something and it might work, it might not work, but you got to know the lessons from it.
For sure.
And obviously, I think by the sounds of it, when you were working in the contract, and in the NHS, were you quite conscious of like, I want to do a good job to obviously, keep a good reputation, hopefully keep more work coming in, but also to meet people like you said, somebody who worked there, and networking in that way. Were you conscious of that alongside? And also you mentioned that you're quite visible on LinkedIn. You reach out to people on LinkedIn. Like how important do you think networking is, and I guess would you mind just going into a bit more detail in terms of what you've done for that as well? Yeah.
I'd personally say with AI, like networking is more important than anything because everyone's talking to robots now, and people are not going to be susceptible to that. Like they want to speak to people, and I feel like being in front of people, like actually making the effort to speak to people on the phone and go see people in person makes a big difference now. People are becoming more isolated by, instant messaging, for example. So I think, yeah, that's been super key to me. And I think it did help my confidence becoming a contractor to be like more authoritative in conversations, rather than I'm just the dev on the team. I'm actually a consultant and kind of, then he came back to me and I got work with his brother-in-law, for example. That's like a prime example to me where I was like, all right, this is how we should probably do business, is like
Yeah.
just come across in a better way with the experience of speaking for itself and really using that to just like add value to people and just make friends as well along the way. Like, I still speak to him now as well.
Yeah. But I think they said there's nothing more like powerful than word of mouth. So
Exactly.
if you've done a good job and somebody recommended to you, I feel like you're almost halfway through the door then.
Of course,
when someone's
100%.
recommended you. Yeah. So what was the first business you set up then? So I appreciate you were contracting and you obviously set up the business then, and that was going to be like the consultancy, but then you've got an AI business,
Yeah.
Or two AI businesses, sorry. How did the idea come to focus in that area? Was it from this original contract and then you saw something there? And obviously AI is, I mean, for me, like I'm not a techie, but I think in the last, was it 18 months to 2 years, it's when Chat GPT and LLMs have really come to the fore. And it seems now like even I was watching TV the other day, and I think it was on ITV where they were talking about AI. There's articles about AI. I've come to the studio today, myself and James, who's helping with the production. We were talking about Chat GPT and AI. My wife's a primary school teacher. We were talking about Chat GPT. It's a lot more in conversation right now. So, what sort of prompted you, I guess, to look at it? Was it that original contract, or was it again an idea that you could, because obviously you're in tech, that you probably saw that this wave was coming?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I've seen it for a while because I noticed that I missed the last one, which was cloud. Like when I was still upskilling and before I worked at the IoT stuff and went into consulting, I worked at Next, working in warehouse systems, rebuilding their kind of software. And they were like late to the cloud stuff, but I was like, there's so many companies that need to do cloud adoption now. And that's how BGSS did really well as well. They kind of pushed that cloud narrative. And I was like, oh my God, like AI is going to be like this, but bigger. Like not only is it changing how business can be like scaled in cloud, like this is changing business like completely. So I was like, there's definitely going to be a whole revolution again, like the cloud one. And so I was like, it makes sense to actually have an AI consultancy. Because when I did first set up Mozstro, I did actually brand it as a cloud consultancy because I was doing that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I quickly, like about 18 months ago, rebranded it to like, all right, we're going to do AI. And then this year, particularly as I got the other co-founders involved and really kind of scaled out the business with the right kind of advisors and partner on board, we've grown quite well because now we've already had that hyper focus. Like I was saying, we really needed to do that. And I identified that from other opportunities that I've been involved in. Like we need to focus on regulated environments, focus on policy and adoption. And it's the same kind of telltale story that was with cloud. They are to do that. It was training, it was adoption. So we're just trying to replicate that kind of model now.
Yeah. Okay. Did you ever look into stuff like that? Because I think we were chatting earlier about AR and VR and how like Meta really went in on that, and I think they've been reporting losses in that area and the metaverse. And I think at the time there's a lot of buzz around the metaverse and people saying, oh, you'll own property in the metaverse, or you'll be in the metaverse. There's obviously been a lot of stuff about crypto as well. Were you ever tempted to maybe look into those areas, or did you look into those areas as well?
Yeah, I looked into both. So crypto, I played around with kind of trading bots and stuff like this, and like always something I've been kind of interested in, but I do believe it is all a bit of a scam. And it's like, I just feel like it's a little bit like fancy gambling almost a little bit. It's interesting, and I appreciate the culture around it, and there's definitely good projects that will keep spinning up. I do feel like with the whole kind of decentralized blockchain environment, we're still trying to figure out what the use case is for it. People just like to make pretty NFTs, and it's just all a bit of a joke at the moment.
Yeah.
Where there's definitely good tech here to use for digital assets, for example. Like why can't I sell you a car and it's an NFT and you now have the logbook? That could be a viable use case because it's a contract.
Yeah.
And I think we're just using the wrong application right now. So I think that's too early to even, for me personally, want to get involved with. For AR, VR, again, similar to being into game dev, I bought the MetaQuest 3 to want to make a VR game for the laugh. I haven't got around to it yet. I've just been too busy. But again, I think it's interesting. And I will say they give me really bad motion sickness, the headsets.
Yeah.
So I can't keep it on for long.
Because it's interesting. So, I mean, even in my line of work, you think about so many different markets. Should I be in this market? What market's going to really kick off? And sometimes it's it's sort of not like seasonal as such, but like sometimes the market can be really hot. It could be like healthcare, it could be like testing, it could be like cloud, but then it does go in cycles, and naturally sometimes you can either get distracted or you can start experimenting, but then you may lose 6 months of trying something.
Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself in that position, either with crypto or with AR, VR, or anything like that, before you went through AI?
Yeah.
And how do you manage that in terms of like, are you good at sort of thinking, no, this is my focus, I'm going to focus on this, or have you had times when, obviously naturally you've tried something and it hasn't worked?
100%. I'm always open for pivoting quick. I wouldn't say personally I've gone that far into AR, VR or crypto to have that failure, but in regards to like the AI networking startup, Drovi started the idea in February last year, and it was completely different to what I've actually released because we just moved quickly and learned from people. I feel like that's always key. What you always see online, it's like, talk to users, change, for the product market fit, and I feel like just being aware of that. And to be honest, we've got something under development in Mozstro as well that we're working on around documents and automation of that. We've already trashed the code base 3 times because we want to make it more and more simpler. And we keep saying like we want to be able to explain it to somebody in like a few words or less, and if they don't get it, it's going to be too difficult. We want to try and help with automation around documentation and creating legal documents, but super simple. So, yeah, I think it's always good to just try and fail as fast as possible, and I think AI just made it even faster, which is brilliant for founders.
Yeah. So we've got one of your co-founders here in the studio as well.
Yeah.
How did you go about finding like co-founders?
Really lucky, to be honest. So I'll go backstory for all the four co-founders. So Matthew, we actually went to the same college, but wasn't like in the same friendship group and stuff like this. But we have a mutual friend years later where we got back in touch, and then we did a kind of siloed off project together, which has kind of now been brought into the business as well, and kind of just expanded our relationship and seen how aligned we've been with where we're at with AI in the industry. We're super aligned on that, so it was just really random, to be honest, just through a mutual friend. Then likewise with Ahmed as well, we met up at a tech event actually, Manchester AI, and we just got speaking, introducing to the guys, and culture fit was just perfect. So got him on board straight away, and Lewis as well. Yeah, it was for another friend of mine. He went to university with him, and he lives in London as well. But I met him when I went down to London on a whim with my friend Kaif, and then we just started chatting, and I spoke to him. I was like, oh, I'm doing this now because I knew he was working in AI policy, and he was like, I want to get involved. So it was just random, to be honest. I think that's the best way though, is just having a good people around you, or second, third connections from other people that you've got good people around you. They're gonna have good people around them, and then you never know how that all can intertwine.
Yeah, no, it sounds like you've got a really good network there, and you're all into like similar, like you've got similar passions, and obviously it'll be great to see how far you can take that. Are you all around like similar age group as well?
Yeah. To be honest, well within like 2-3 years of each other age wise. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting then, because I was obviously quite impressed with your age and where you're going, and it's great to hear that you've got other friends that are on a similar journey. With where you are, so you've got 2 companies at the moment. Like, what's the size of them both, and how are they built at the moment? Is it a team of co-founders, or have you got other employees working for you as well?
Yeah, so in Mozstro we have the 4 co-founders, including myself. We're kind of the kind of advisors and kind of consultants as such, and we have kind of offshore and onshore development that we work with, and we have a couple of other people working in sales, like more in a part-time at this point, and kind of project management. So there's roughly around 12 of us at this point, and we do leverage that with the sister company, being able to kind of switch development across, so it kind of helps build both together. We've kind of been pushing both brands together really, because when we've been going out and networking, it's good to talk about the networking app, and then also if they're interested in AI, we kind of have a lot to kind of offer, which I think is really useful as well.
Yeah,
complement each other nicely.
Nice. So you've got the networking app, and then you've also got the document app as well.
It's like just the consultancy. So the document app is something we've kind of just been thinking about if we're going to put to market. But the products now is the consulting side with strategy, training, and policy and implementation, and then the actual full product we do have on market now on the App Store is Drovi, the networking platform.
Yeah. Okay. So do you tend to go out and sort of solve AI problems for companies, and what would a typical client of yours look like? Could you maybe give an example? I mean, you don't have to name them, but like an example of maybe some of the type of work that they've came to you with, or have you managed to identify and go out to market and actually pitch work and win it as well?
Yeah, so we're really focused on regulated industries, particularly financial tech is where we've had a lot of success recently, given kind of a lot of the team's background as well as in finance over any of the other regulated ones. So for us, we've kind of been working with SMEs where they've got a lot of data and they don't really know how to get the insights out of it they should. So a prime use case has been one of the clients we've been doing strategy with is like they've had opportunities that they've missed because they just don't have no alerting or visibility around all this data, and they've got 50,000 like leads in there, and the stuff they've worked with before, and they just have no like simplified way to see if something's coming up they could act on in around like financing. So we're going to build a system with them now where we can take that data and actually do proper analysis on it and just provide a simplified dashboard, with a bit of an AI layer on the first instance to show that return on investment, and then kind of prove out to them that they can get more work off of this and it's going to pay for itself straight away. And then we want to use that as like an anchor point to kind of make them more AI first. They're really open to that mindset. We kind of did some training with them as well to kind of warm them up to be ready. And they're already got themselves in a position where the data's in a good format. They just don't have the technology on top of it and the ideas for it.
Yeah. I think data is only as good as how you use it, right?
Yeah.
So you can have thousands and thousands of data, but if you're not doing anything with it, there's going to be gaps and there's going to be opportunities within it, right?
Course,
and
yeah.
it is with the AI tools that you provide, they can help identify them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If we can understand the process mapping, like first, that's what we've been doing with the team, is talking to stakeholders, seeing out what they do to actually identify them manually. And they were saying most of the time they only see them in portfolio review, and we can automate that. The process of them doing the review of the portfolio. How can we, instead of doing that quarterly, how can we do that every day with AI? But efficiency and cheap, obviously, in mind as well.
Yeah. Is there a particular area of AI that you do? Because I appreciate AI can be quite vast. So there's like LLMs, there's agents.
Yeah.
Do you do all of them, or is there a particular area that you feel like you're really shining? And I mean, obviously, you don't have to use that as like, this is what we specialize in, but
Yeah.
is there a particular area you feel like you excel in, or is it in everything within AI?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm well versed across using a lot of the different bits. Across the roles, I've fine-tuned models, I've trained models, I've kind of like messed around with a lot of the actual deep inners as well, and kind of understanding it for my own benefit. But most of the time for clients, we are doing agentic stuff where we have data, we have a system, and there's different things that can go off to help, and they can kind of all be orchestrated to work together. And I think that's just the way it's a modern tech stack, effectively, where that's just a lot of companies are going to want that actually implemented. Maybe they want their own model, but for most SMEs especially, they don't need their own model. It's only these big enterprises, if they want to do something so bespoke or they have a product, where they need the model, where they've probably already got one anyway, because that's their business. For most of the time, we don't have to touch any of that. We can use OpenAI, Claude, quite easily, depending on the task. One other thing we do offer additionally, though, is that we can secure that. So we could deploy that on a privatized instance as well, and kind of also prove out that there's no leakage back to OpenAI if they don't want to train on it. Because they do offer privatized versions now where it's a closed loop, which a lot of finance and regulated firms want to get as well.
It's quite interesting because typically you'd expect the financial industry is one of those where they're a little bit slower to move to new technology because they don't want anything to break, and obviously money is like one of the most important things that they can't lose. So it's interesting that but I guess you probably will get more success with more of the SMEs than maybe the big banks and investment companies for now, but I think slowly but surely they'll probably realise the benefits of it as well.
For sure, and I think as we build up our reputation in the industry, we want to follow suit for like the BGSS of the consulting. We want to be that premium experience as well, so we want to grow really good for that.
How long did it take you to get into and learn AI? So like say, for example, there'll be people wondering, either they're a C#.NET developer, like most people that I work with, if they want to get into AI, what would like the learning curve look like? And maybe like if you use yourself as an example, how did you pick up AI and research into it and learn it to the point where obviously you've got your own business where you're consulting out regarding this?
Yeah, I think it's always good to become aware of the tools available. So really understanding ChatGPT. And one of the things I really did is like try and break it and understand what actually is going on. And to be honest, this is a massive fancy comparison database. It's taking what you said and comparing to what data it has and just spitting that back out to you in a more advanced way. So it's kind of like, thinking what these tools are and because of that benefit, what can I do? And I feel like it just makes any type of problem where there's a lot of data involved become a lot more simpler. So I was kind of just then playing around with stuff and thinking like, what's a big data set? Or like, for example, with a wealth management firm, that was like, one of the first times I've really built something commercially, and it was just figuring out like, we've got all this data from APIs and kind of working out what would be advantageous to the client as well. So working with like the stakeholders on that. And you're kind of building something where it's like, oh my God, I can now just instantly aggregate all this data rather than doing a massive query. That's where I kind of started out. So it's kind of replacing it as, using it almost as a bit of a pseudo database a little bit. Trying to understand it that way, I think, was good for me. So I'd probably recommend trying to see it from that view is quite useful. Just see it as another data store, but it has almost like code capabilities of generating stuff in a
Yeah.
weird way.
Do you think we're still a little bit away from it being able to replace developers?
Yeah, I don't think that level will be what actually happens, to be honest. I think it's just going to assist, and maybe the developer role will kind of adapt, to be honest. I feel like it's definitely going to change the level from like junior to senior. And like obviously the senior developers right now are going to benefit from this a lot because they can just use the tools really well to make them efficient. It's going to make the learning curve a lot harder because people are going to have to also understand how to code in this modern way, and also how can they be quick with these tools and actually let it be so quick and actually be able to keep up with it, which I think could be quite difficult. So I think it's going to change the training. That's why we're kind of getting more into training and workshops now as well, and delivering them, because I think like we want to help try and close that gap for companies as well, where that have people coming in and they can't compete with anybody more senior. So I think it's definitely going to kind of shift the market, but I do feel like it won't replace development because it can only write code as good as what it knows about. It's not going to be creative enough to kind of come up with its own ideas for products. Unless we can replicate, proper creativity, which I don't even know how that would be possible.
Right.
But
Yeah. Do you think like they could, like, when you talk about the gap between junior and senior, do you think people might tend to use a lot of shortcuts to try and use it to maybe help them deliver certain projects or certain work, but then that means they're probably not learning in as much depth as they would if they didn't have that tool? Because myself and James were talking earlier about a lot of people at universities and colleges will be using it to do their essays and dissertations. So then, are they really learning from doing that, or is it an easy way to be able to do that? So could you? Is that, like, obviously I'm not a techie, so I'm just saying, like, could that be comparative to development and learning and doing projects that way as well?
100%, I do feel like there's a risk with AI in general to potentially make like countries less, smarter in advancement potentially, because people are lazy as it is. They want the quickest thing. If they can, fake a dissertation, they're not even going to have the the degree of what they've researched in. So it's like it's going to have be an integrity thing for a lot of people of like, do I actually want to do this, or is it just like am I just going to fake my way through it? So I think it's going to create a lot of fraudulent stuff that would happen, and I think we're going to have to create better ways to detect that across all industry. Like even like interviews and stuff now, people are AI and all that. It's like, how do you know if they're a real applicant? Do they even know what they're even doing? It's hard to even prove that out. So there always has to be a better system to kind of counter for that. But it's definitely it definitely will come into coding. I've seen numerous times online, and just from people I've worked with, like more recently, their code, you can tell if they're more junior. They've just generated this, and they don't have a clue what it's doing. It'd be insecure, it's not doing stuff properly. It is the full vibe coding, like they're not going to do anything with best practice. Like they've literally just sellotaped it together.
Yeah. Speaking of vibe coding, I noticed a posted on LinkedIn where you've been doing some stuff. So do you still play around with projects in your own time to again learn it, break it, and figure things out as well?
Yeah, so this was the document generator thing. So it is, I don't even know where we're going with it. It's just been a cool idea where we want to be a Lovable for documents effectively, where we can generate legal documents with AI. And it could be something we enterprise as well, but we want to give it out to the public. So I vibe coded the whole thing, but I feel like I get a pass for vibe coding because I know what it's doing, and I will always check as well. And I get to a certain point with the flow, as we were on about earlier with, when you was using Lovable before, I would get to a certain point with Lovable, but then I'll always go to Cursor, and then I'll always use Claude for coding activities because I know Claude is the most advanced model right now for coding tasks. If I can generate a ticket for a developer in that persona and feed it to Claude, it's got a really high success rate of actually giving me what I'm asking for as well. Even with unit tests and security best practices, I'll always make sure that's part of the acceptance criteria as well. So I think it's almost becoming me now a bit of a product owner, a little bit in how do I write a ticket well to feed to the AI to build it. So this could be feeding back into what we were saying around the senior job changing and junior job changing. Maybe they're changing to a more product role in it, if they want to kind of add bits of value, they kind of scaffold stuff together with AI, gets reviewed by the senior that it's all okay, it's all good. So maybe that could be one of the ways it evolves.
Yeah.
More product focused, writing tickets.
Yeah, I was my previous guest I was speaking to, he was saying as well that it might just make developers more efficient as well, and there's certain tasks that a developer may not want to do, but then maybe AI will allow them to do those additional tasks. So extra tasks might be admin or automating certain things.
Yeah.
And then it then obviously then gives them more time to do some of the more, like, I guess, advanced work or work that they want to try and complete. So in effect, they might be able to complete more projects.
Yeah.
And then essentially become more profitable, I guess, as a business if they've got more projects that they're shipping and stuff like that. So do you think that could be what could happen as well?
Definitely, it kind of promotes like gig economy really, people doing multiple projects because you have so much time to kind of span it out, but it's always like, is the quality going to be there? I think that it's like people are going to take advantage of that. But it's like just making sure, again, like with any business, is working with the right people that they're going to deliver a good job as well. Because we would never deliver something like that where it's just been fully vibe coded to the nth degree. We'd always make sure it's gone through proper process like we would do it manually. But one point you did say there, what's interesting, the kind of doing more priority tasks as a developer. I used to hate writing unit tests, manually every time, or, CRUD operators on a controller where it's the same for different entities. That's so good for being like, I've now got this, now duplicate it for that entity. Saves you like an hour of your life.
Yeah,
Not having to just sit and do it again. So that is a game changer alone.
yeah. Oh, good stuff. What what's the sort of, how do you sort of separate the team at the moment? So like you mentioned that there's, obviously you've got, is it 4 co-founders,
Yeah.
including yourself?
Yeah.
How have you split the business in terms of like, there's a focus on like marketing, there's a focus on like the tech side. How have you built that, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, of course.
And also, what I'm interested in is probably finding out like how you like develop the team. You've got developers working for you, like how you manage them, and how your skills have like sort of increased in that area as well.
For sure, yeah. I mean, to be honest, as being a founder, like first time founder, we're all just learning as we go.
Yeah.
The good thing is the team is all super responsive. Like we all just want to help each other. We all are very transparent about self-improvement. There's no egos. Like we leave that completely at the door. We just want to do a good job, basically. And the kind of split at the moment is I'm kind of leading strategy forward, but also for technology background, kind of helping with that as well. We have Ahmed who's focused fully on like the kind of CTO type role and helping push that out. We're also doing a little bit of sales because he has a tech sales background as well. Matthew as well, like super good at the operations, kind of keeping everything in order, but also jumping on sales and marketing. We're all wearing multiple hats. Yeah. And then with Lewis as well, working in kind of policy, he's got a lot of contacts and advisors for other businesses where he's kind of helping with regulation, long-term and kind of commercial like vision as well. So we've got a really good mix, and we all just pitch in. Like I'm posting on my LinkedIn every day, but the guys are randomly posting stuff out as well. We're getting more into a cadence of that and just taking turns for doing stuff because no one wants to do the market. None of us are from a full marketing background, but we know it's a requirement. We want to build a really good brand, and we want to get to a point soon where we build out the marketing department as well.
Yeah.
It should be coming soon, so that'd be good.
What are your plans in terms of like growth? What would you like to achieve? Have you sort of thought that and planned that far ahead?
To an extent, yeah. I think at the moment it'd be really cool to have a product where we can kind of push towards like clients where we can really help them a lot of value there, like around kind of the legal document side would be super interesting. And kind of just working with some interesting projects as well, really. Like finance is such a cool space. They're really warm to tech, and I just love an interesting problem to solve, so I'm really focused on that. But as we scale, yeah, kind of looking at overseas markets as well. Really interested in emerging technologies and markets. So the Middle East, when we launched Drovi, the networking app, I launched it in the UAE and then went on to Qatar to go Web Summit. So I got a big kind of exposure to that market and the stuff that's going on there. And I made a lot of contacts that we've been reaching back out to now to look for in the next quarter, how do we actually get business out there as well? So that's something like, it's probably in the longer term, we want to be like, right, how do we set up in Dubai? How do we potentially set up in like Singapore, stuff like this as well, where we can get into the forefront of fintech and in the front of it where they've got the money to invest as well in interesting projects.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. How have you feel like you obviously, like you said, you're wearing a lot of multiple hats. How are you finding challenges with that in terms of like when you're hiring, when you're interviewing people? Had you done any interviews or had you grown the team at any of your previous companies that you worked at?
Yeah, so at BGSS, I started doing interviewing there, and then I did a couple of interviews at Accenture for developers, and then at FIG, I placed 2 people through there as well, one in kind of sales, one in development. And to be honest, like a lot of the people we have worked with recently have been through our network. Like our first port of call is, do we know somebody? Then it becomes less formal and it's nice, and we can have a good conversation with that person. We already kind of know them. But most of the time, yeah, culture is quite important for us as well, and like the value of just making sure they fit into the current team. So I'm always keen, since we're quite small, we can do it, is get them to meet everybody. And even if we can meet people in person, just to try and get a full flavour for this person before they get involved. And it's worked really well so far for us, that approach.
Yeah. What do you like to see? Like when I guess obviously you already have had these people referred to you, or you already probably know that they come with a good reference. But is there anything in particular that you like to see at interview? If somebody does something at interview that you really like, or something that you particularly look out for?
Yeah, I'd say a self-starter, especially when we're in a startup. And I also don't want to limit people as well. I will always say, like, if you're in this type of division, like, you come in and if you add value, we will like get you into a position that's, you know, fairly compensated, you know, whether that's potential employee reserve shares or, you know, other benefits going down the line in regards to commission, etc. So I always want to be open. If they're going to help the business go forward, I want to make sure they feel part of it as well. And like, you know, they could potentially in a couple of years be, you know, on the board in some capacity as well, depending on what they do. So that is a big like green flag to me, like kind of seeing that from somebody. And also just like, yeah, just being a creative problem solver and thinking outside the box as well. It all kind of ties in of just somebody that is just like a go-getter and really going to make something happen. Doesn't always matter about the experience as well. Like it's good to have certain backgrounds, but most of the time I feel like it's the mindset is invaluable. You can train a skill, especially with AI. You can train stuff pretty quick.
And what about red flags, would you say?
I'd probably say just kind of flakiness and commitment to stuff as well, and also just not like being serious with deadlines and priority and speed. Like I found issues in the past with making sure people just stay on time for doing stuff and kind of are accountable for their word as well. You know, it's just being trustworthy across different sectors there. I think that's a big thing. If I get any kind of hint of that, it's hard to kind of want to put faith in that they're going to take stuff forward.
Right, okay. What are your thoughts on tech tests?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I feel like it's funny because I'll be honest, I've even used them tools before. You can automate them now. Like I can literally fake it. So it's like, I don't really know what's the point of them anymore. Like we were saying earlier, I think recruitment's going to have to change because how can I just use AI to do my tech test and then somehow get a job I'm underqualified for? So it's like, I personally feel like I've not done a tech test properly for anybody, like unless it's been something that's like a specific thing and I've really thought about it and I know it'd be an interesting thing for them to solve. Like when we interviewed for people for Drovi, it was around the space and then it was a more involved thing. We got them back on a call and it's quite more genuine. When people send out these automated tech tests especially, there's no kind of thought around it. I feel like it kind of puts people off because it's like you want to speak to somebody and they'll just pound you off to like a URL to do to a link up. You know, at least what way we approach it is we got them on a call and we made them comfortable about it. It's like, you know, would you be interested in doing this? It's around what we're doing. You know, you're going to learn about the product. I actually gave them some data for stuff we've done. So it was like, almost I feel like they're doing like a trial rather than it feels so like it's just a random problem to solve for an Archie sequence or something like this. So I think that's a good way to approach it because it is good to test people's ability for coding.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Like, how would you test somebody to know like whether they're obviously suitable for the role but have the technical skills as well? Because that, I guess, is a challenge in itself, right?
Yeah, it is. The way we've approached it is I'll do a short introduction just for me to see how I get on with them and kind of get them to highlight their experience that I find interesting. And then for Drovi, for example, we then would give them that problem to solve and then get back on a call and it'd be a bit of a wider culture call where we'll bring a couple more people on as well. So I feel like if they've given the skills back, and I don't mind, I even said to the guys like we've interviewed, I don't mind if you use AI, but I just want it to be good as well and you understand and give documentation. And I actually got them to run through what they've done on the call as well. So it's like, I can tell if you like, like you're going to know if it adds up or not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just kind of holding them accountable. Like you can do the AI, but you need to know what it's doing. You know what I mean? That's the bottom line, really.
I guess it's sort of like being able to explain like how you got there as well.
Yeah.
So like sometimes when I speak to companies, they're not overly concerned with like the finished product sometimes. So even if their project doesn't work or it's got issues, like they want to know like how they've got to there and can this talk their way to how they've got to there and their thought process behind it. I guess with AI, I think there will be an element of they're able to then show like, yeah, this is the route I took, and then like you were explaining earlier about like using Lovable and then moving over to like Claude and stuff. Like I think that would be a good way to demonstrate, right? Yeah, cool. With AI, obviously it's, you know, very, very topical. Obviously your business is inside it as well. Is there any particular tools or any sort of online tools that people can use? Obviously, like you mentioned that you learned and picked up stuff from YouTube. Is YouTube, in your like opinion at the moment, is that a good starting point? Is there any other tools or frameworks or like, I guess, things out there that you feel could be quite helpful to someone starting out?
Yeah, I'd personally still say YouTube is a good source, and I feel like the good thing about YouTube is now, because it's been around for a while, the videos that I watch will still be on there. So like if you wanted to learn development at that point where the AI wasn't influencing it as much, you can see the core, how to actually pick up C# and build something with it. But obviously I have all the new wave stuff on there as well, and new updated courses, and you get a lot of stuff for free. You can get a lot of free value out of that. And I personally would say after that, going on to tools like GitHub as well randomly and just looking at other stuff, what people are doing and playing around and trying to break things. I feel like just letting your creativity run wild, your curiosity with things as well is super useful. And in regards to kind of just like other resources, you know, people are doing more workshops now and kind of boot camps. They're super good. Do feel like they can be quite expensive, but they do have a good success rate at the end. So it's one of them where it's like, do you want to go down the educational route? But it's more of a guarantee, I'd probably say, if you get into it. So it's always a good choice, I'd say, is going down a boot camp as well at this point. But for me, yeah, YouTube all the way, and free code camp and stuff like this is always good. I know they've got a quite good reputation. I know people that have been using them as well.
Yeah. With AI, is there any particular languages that it uses when it comes to tech? So like obviously I do a lot of work with like C#. Could AI replace the traditional languages in your opinion or not? Or
I think, no, it's just a way to automate writing it, in my opinion.
Okay.
So like a lot of the SDKs and tools and APIs that we call would always be written in Python, just naturally because it's around the data science and analytics. People always tend to go for Python, but OpenAI, you can use it in C#, you know, they all have, as an SDK for most providers, and I think anyway, it's just a way to kind of facilitate being faster with it. I can't see how it would do the logic for you, because it's still going to have to process and compile at the end of the day into code, and AI can't do that unless it were already using another language that was doing it, or you know what I mean. So
yeah. Outside of tech, AI, what do you enjoy doing?
to be honest, at the moment, since we're kind of gone full time into this, I'm not doing a lot.
I didn't think you would. That's what I thought I'd ask.
Yeah. I'm into going to like music, going to concerts, stuff like this. You know, I've been to traveling as well. I've been to quite a few countries this year. It's been nice for work, to be fair. But a couple wasn't. Went to Morocco just off leisure, which was nice to see. So I like seeing the world. Got married in December as well, so it's been nice just traveling the world with my partner a bit more.
Yeah.
And then just trying to focus on being a bit of healthier life. I used to do MMA quite a lot, so one of my goals now for the next month or so is I want to get back into that as well.
Yeah. It's always difficult. I mean, when you run a business and you've got a lot on your mind, it is hard to switch off. But you know, there's a lot of benefits, I guess, to you know, exercise and having other interests and things like that as well, because I think you can get burnt out quite quickly. Have you experienced it? Yeah, I was going to say, like, have you like, if you don't mind sharing, like, have you had experience of like burnout and obviously like being really focused on building the business?
I had it literally happen a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, like I just can't get off my laptop sometimes. I just get ill off the back of it, and it's just one of them. I'm trying to get better with it. And to be honest, now I live with my partner, I think it's getting easier because I'm also got someone to hold me accountable. To kind of stop doing that a little bit sometimes, but. Yeah, for me, I just need to go outside a little bit more. But I think we're getting to the point now where as we're getting more stable, I can start to feel like, right, I can actually formulate a better routine.
Yeah.
Which is,
I think that's the difficult thing, is having a routine.
It really actually is, yeah.
With business and stuff, you almost can't switch off.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, probably like myself, where there's been many nights where, you know, you're going to bed really late and you still, you know, you're thinking about work. Last thing you're thinking about is work before you sleep, and then it's the first thing you think of when you wake up.
Definitely.
In the shower. And sometimes you get great ideas in the shower. I always find that when I'm in the shower, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great idea, but I've got nowhere to note it down. But sometimes when you're on a walk or when you're thinking of stuff, I like to use Slack a lot, where I just write to myself on Slack. So I've got, you know, when you have your own name and your own channel, I just put all my ideas into there, because I can do it from my phone, or, you know, do it if I'm on the laptop. So that works really well for me. What works well for you when it comes to like ideas?
Yeah, I just pull them into notes on my phone, and then I'll just kind of periodically go through them as well over time and just see if it's actually any good. I use a tool called Tweak as well, which is like a to-do list where you just put tasks in every day, but you can have almost like a mini backlog. And I group them for different stuff. So I have one for my life where I need to do admin work, pay my car insurance, stuff like this. But then I have one for just ideas and stuff I want to, you know, try and get through as well.
Yeah. So what's that called? Tweak?
Yeah. It's just like a fancy to-do list, but you have an app on your phone. You can connect your calendar, so it has all your meetings. It's just simple and nice to use. So.
Yeah. Is there any? Well, I think this could be a good thing to ask. Is there any AI tools that you think work really well? Because obviously it is like a minefield out there. So with me being in recruitment, there are so many AI recruitment tools that have like propped up in like the last year.
Yeah.
I think I used to go on a website where there was like 23 tools, but now there's like over 2,000 or something. So it's gone like nuts. You can obviously get lost in it as well. So even in my line of work, you can try certain things. A lot of them probably do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
But you can very easily think, oh, that's like the new shiny object, and get lost in it and spend hours and hours, and really you're just spending time doing that admin that maybe you could have obviously best served elsewhere. But is there any particular AI tools that you find have worked well for you in development, or obviously just in life in general, I guess, as well?
Yeah, to be honest, like I feel like some can be quite hit and miss a little bit. I've found, you know, tools I've already used. So like we use Notion at the moment. We used to use Jira, but we started using Notion now, And that's got an AI layer on it, and that's really nice because I can create a database with natural language. So I think that's super useful. An interesting call out is I found a company in YC right now called Den, and they've built almost like a layer on top of Notion where it has agents built into it. So like I built a thing where it pulls all my calendar invites, works out like a bit of an idea for the calls. It's like a sales call. It will send us a PDF and an email and then update it in Notion with all the details. I'm like, that's really impressive to me, but it is a little bit buggy. And I find that's what a lot of these are like, where there's a lot of integrations going on. We're a little bit too early now. It's doing too much, I think. But other than that, to be honest, I just swear by using ChatGPT for a lot of things if I want to get outputs out of it. To be honest, and even using stuff like Midjourney for images is quite nice. Recently used a tool called PlayPlay. So on the Mozstro page, we've got a couple of videos out there. I use them to kind of piece it together with AI for the video editing and storyboarding. So there's a few tools getting better and better, but the integration ones are the most interesting to me with connecting everything together, but they're just not that great at this point in time.
Yeah. Do you think, obviously, the industry has legs then? Because obviously, naturally, like we were talking about AR and VR, and I think obviously crypto is still huge, but I feel like maybe, you know, the noise around it is like quieting down. I think with crypto, it's weird, innit? I think when it's too noisy, then things start going too late. Yeah, exactly. But with AI, do you think that there is going to be, you know, like a big shift in a lot of industries, a lot of like different jobs being created, and I guess where do you see it going? And I know it's a difficult question to ask, because obviously I guess if you knew the answer to it, you know, you'd be onto something. Do you know what I mean? But where do you see it maybe in the next sort of 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I'd say there's going to be a lot of like fake companies coming out. So I don't know if you saw recently Builder.ai. It's a lovable clone that raised like 400 million, Microsoft backed, and they literally ran out of money somehow. So it's obviously a bit of a Ponzi going on. I think that's come from the crypto culture where people think they can piggyback and fake business out here. But I do feel like a lot of difficult problems will start to become solved around documents and kind of process automation. And I honestly think in 3 years' time, verticals within businesses could be completely disappeared and been made more efficient, or just completely flipped on their head as well across every type of industry. I feel like at that point there'll be SME, like subject matter experts across all of these, like recruitment, consulting, you know, legal, etc. I think a lot of it will be well on its way at that point, to be honest, and be different.
Yeah. And what are your plans, I guess, in the next few years? Is it growth? Is it more visibility, more networking? I guess I want to just touch on networking, because I know something we talked about in the prep call, and you've touched on it a little bit. Do you have any tips on that? And I guess we'll come back to like what your plans are, but like in terms of, do you have any tips on networking for anybody who is obviously just starting out as like a founder, or wants to obviously go on ideally like a similar journey to yourself of getting into starting a business? What's worked well for you with networking?
Yeah, I found going to events that are around like a more broader topic. So I used to go to a lot of like .NET meetups and stuff, but you just find other developers, which is, it depends what your kind of interest is as well, right? So like at the time I wanted to meet more developers, so that was brilliant. So it's kind of making sure you go for that associated thing. But for now, for kind of scaling business, we want to go to like bigger conferences and wider events where we're going to get these key decision makers in the room with us, and then it's all about just confidence and just going for it and just trying to think of an angle to come in at. And just also having a conversation that's genuine, right, as well. You don't have to start off with trying to say what I do. Most of the time, just listen to what they say and seeing if it's a hook of me even saying anything worth about what I do, what might add value. So I think coming in from a genuine mindset and just trying to be friends with people, I think is nice, because again, you never know when these people might come round. They might not have something for me, but they might know someone that does. So I feel like it's always just coming with the best energy and trying to be the best version of yourself and just trying to just meet more people. And I think over time that's massively helped me, because I was very introverted, especially in like high school. Would not speak to hardly anybody apart from playing games. Whereas now I would go up and speak to like senior directors of companies just from off a whim. So it's just like, just trying to push yourself to do that.
No, it's great that, because I think, like you said, you put yourself out of your comfort zone, and I think even at the end of the day, if somebody's a director, so you're still a human being at the end of the day. So, you know, I'm sure most people, when you approach them, you say hello, you know, introduce yourself, they're very kind, and they will, you know, obviously like reciprocate that. Do you ever intentionally look at who may be going to a conference or a networking event and then either reach out to them prior, or try and make sure that they're the people that you can somehow speak to? Do you ever intentionally do that?
Yeah, more and more we do become more of a bit strategic focus on where we want to get out and what we want to get out of it and the connections we want to make. And to be honest, if you go in with that intent, it always seems to happen for us recently. Like we've been to some recently and we've come out and got connections and started forming partnerships with certain people that we'd already pre-identified. So yeah, I'd say going in with direction massively helps to actually get an outcome as well if you're going for that reason.
Yeah, brilliant. And then, yeah, going back to the question I was asking earlier, where do you see yourselves? Where do you want to be in the next, like, 2 to 3 years, like in your journey?
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to be working with kind of like, super complex problems around solving, big industry-wide problems at that point. With AI's advancement, we can definitely get to that scale where we can have a big impact. Making companies more efficient, helping the world become a greener place as well is a good thing, I think, to be aligned with as well with tech, because if the faster we do things, the less stuff has to be operating for. We can potentially reduce carbon usage with stuff like this as well. So something we want to get exploring is like how can we help contribute to like net zero as well, but also globally expanding. Very interested in the Middle Eastern market. Would love to kind of have the influence of particularly Saudi's investment of trying to become an AI native country. We'd love to have involvement with that. That to me personally is super interesting, and I know the team also feel the same. Like that'd be a crazy thing to be involved with.
Yeah,
So yeah, kind of big picture vision of how we can help core infrastructure and kind of
yeah.
companies like that.
No, brilliant. I mean, I really enjoyed speaking to you, Elliot. I think it's really impressive, like at your age, if you don't mind me saying, like, obviously that you're quite young, but like you seem to have like a very ambitious head on you, and obviously you've worked to it, and you've kind of intentionally tried to get to this position as well. So it's great to see you here. It's great to see what yourself and your fellow founders are doing as well. And yeah, I have no reason to doubt that you'll smash it and go on really
Appreciate
far.
that.
So yeah, I've been really impressed with you. I've enjoyed the chat as well, and I feel like I've probably learned a little bit more about AI as well, which is good. It's hopefully, obviously, some of the people that are watching this will probably get that as well. But yeah, fantastic. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for coming through today.
Thank you. Appreciate your time as well, mate. Nice one.